enjoyed those photographs, and before we break it down, make sure you wait until the end because I have bonus content using red gels, also purple and teal, and also mixing in a beauty dish for a couple of photographs. Now let's go ahead and break this down and let's cover todo el pedo. Step number one is to set up our camera settings and our ambient exposure. And our goal here is to kill all of the ambient, meaning we want a blank canvas. We want a dark frame on purpose because we want to control all of the light in the situation. So the camera settings that I used was ISO 100 to have the less sensitivity to light, shutter speed 250 because I want to stay in the flash sync speed. I don't need to get into high speed sync. And then the most important one here, the one I'm going to control the most in the studio is going to be my aperture. And I chose aperture 4 because I wanted a little bit more range of focus for these portraits. But you can go anywhere between 3.5, 5.6. But just make sure that as you're doing your test shots, that you're not getting any ambient exposure in your frame. Now the ambient exposure isn't that important because I'm actually going to turn off all the lights in the studio because I'm going to use the modeling lights in step 2 to give me a preview of the final results using the colored gels. Step number 2 is to add our rim lights behind our subject with colored gels. Now I'm going to angle these 45 degrees behind the subject, camera left and camera right. And the most important thing when I'm using colored gels is I actually work with my background lights first and then I add my key light. And the most important step of this process is to take advantage of the modeling lamps on your strobes. Now I'm using the Westcott FJ400 for these photographs, and it's by far one of my favorite strobes because it's the do-it-all strobe for my type of work. I can take it outdoors, I can take it in the studio, and as a bonus, I can plug it in the studio and still charge and shoot with it at the same time. Now in order to turn on the modeling lamps on this specific strobe, I just go to my trigger, I push the menu button, and then I'll get a lamp icon, which allows me to turn on the modeling lamp of strobe B, which is gonna be my background light, camera left, and then turn on C, which is my background light to the right. As for my background modifiers, I was using the Westcott deep umbrellas with the silver interior, and I chose the silver interior because I love the specular highlights that you get from the silver. And because I'm using colored gels, I still want that beautiful color pop as my rim lights. Now, as a bonus, when you're using umbrellas, I like to attach other modifiers because it allows for open access. I can use the magnetic reflector that comes with the Westcott FJ400, and I can sandwich different colored gels. And because it's an open modifier, I have easy access to swipe different colored gels. Now keep in mind, you can always use these Rosco gels and just cover the bulb if you want with the rubber bands. But I find it easier, at least for my process, to just use the magnetic reflector. So use whatever process you think works best for you. Keep in mind when you're working with colored gels, the way you have the lights positioned is going to be very important. We don't necessarily want the background lights to be too close to the background. In this example, I'm using the Savage Fashion Gray background. But if I have the light angled too much to the background or too close, I'm gonna get some color spill. Now that might be a good thing if that's what you want, but if you don't want that and you want a black background, you're gonna need to move the subject and the lights further away from the background. And it's important when you're working with colored gels, it's important that you emphasize communication and direction with your subject because depending on where your subject is facing, the nose direction, the body, you're going to introduce color in specific areas. So you have to be very clear where your subject is going to be placed to get the results that you want. Step number 3 is to actually decide which color gels do you want to use for your photographs. Now keep in mind that you want to look at the color wheel. You can either go a complementary color scheme. So for the first example, you saw me use the orange and teal, which you can never go wrong with that color scheme. But you'll also see some bonus photographs where I used teal and purple. And then I also used an all red theme as well. So really put a little bit of effort and try to really look up different color schemes. Now I like using Adobe Color CC for inspiration. You can look on Pinterest for ideas and inspiration as well. But the colors are obviously going to be very important, so you definitely want to take a little bit of extra time deciding which color gels you want to use for your shoots. Before we get to the next step, I do want to talk about today's video sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative people on topics including photography, productivity, business, and more. Make great use of your downtime and check out Skillshare's online classes, which include a combination of video lessons and class projects. The class I recently enjoyed watching was DIY Product Photography, Style and Shoot Creative Stills by Mango Street. What I enjoyed about this class is that it was very refreshing to watch a different style of photography opposed to portrait photography. So I want to see if I can incorporate some of those skills that I learned in this class into my portrait photography. And as a bonus, this class is under 35 minutes, so I can quickly absorb the content and learn some new skills. Now is the perfect opportunity to start learning new skills. For everything Skillshare offers, it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. The first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. Step number 3 is to add our key light. Now this step is very important because the modifier you choose can either hurt or improve your photograph. Now on this one, I was using the Westcott softbox, the 1x2, and I like to use a soft modifier when I'm using colored gels because I want to be able to control the amount of light that's spreading out in my frame. Now the problem with the 1x2, if I don't use a grid, and I'm going to put an illustration here, is you'll notice that the light starts to spread out in unwanted areas. Now when we're using colored gels, one of the problems with that is that if you have too much light or white light, it's going to kill all of the color in my colored gels. So colored gels you're mainly going to see in the shadow areas. So we still want to preserve the shadows behind the subject, camera left and camera right, because we want to see the color. So one way that we can control the light and really focus the light, because I just want this key light to be focused on the face, because for my personal taste, I don't necessarily want a blue or orange face here. I do want to kind of mute the colors a little bit. So what this key light is going to do is that it's going to tone down the color just enough where I still get the normal skin tone. In order to focus the light and to still preserve the shadows for that color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a grid, and here you'll see an illustration of the before and after with and without the grid, and notice how the light is a lot more focused, and now I can really focus that modifier on the face and still get those natural tones and still preserve the color in my rim lights. Step number 4 is the final results, which you've been waiting for. So here what you're going to see me do is I'm going to turn on B, which is the background light, camera left. I'll turn on C, which is the background light, camera right, and A, which is my key light. Now keep in mind, because I'm using these modeling lamps, I don't want you to get confused. I'm still using the strobe, it's still popping out light. I'm only using the modeling lights as a visual reference for a preview of what my results are going to be. Now I know the common question is, well Eli, what's your power output? And I can't really tell you because it really depends on how much color pop you want as your rim light. My best suggestion would be is to try the different power outputs on your strobe and see the results that you want for your specific example. As a bonus, you can use this atmospheric aerosol to create this fog in your background, and as the color gels hit this fog, it just adds this different type of mood to the pictures. And if you want links to all the gear that I used in this video, I'm gonna have it in the description. Before I let you guys go, I am gonna leave you with a couple of different photographs using this color gel setup, one with a red theme, a purple and teal theme, and also using a beauty dish instead of the 1x2 softbox. Thank you guys for watching and enjoy the photographs.